10 sunglasses brands rich men over 40 quietly wear. You've never heard of number 1. Picture a man at a rooftop bar in July, watches covered by his sleeve, suits dark, unbranded, the kind that doesn't announce itself. But the sunglasses on his face cost more than most men's entire outfit, and you'd walk right past them. Not because they're flashy, because they aren't. That's not an accident. Most men buy sunglasses the way they buy everything else, by whatever name shows up in an ad, on a rack, in an airport shop. But there's a smaller group buying from names almost nobody outside a tight circle can even pronounce. So here's the real question. Why would a man who can afford any pair on earth deliberately choose the one nobody recognizes? The deeper this list goes, the less it's about the logo, and the more it's about who actually made the thing. By the time we get to number 1, that gap is as wide as it gets. Real facts on who makes these, how, and what a knowledgeable buyer sees in the construction that the rest of us walk right past. Numbers 10 through 8, the recognizable but overlooked tier. These first 3 sit in a strange spot. Inside the eyewear industry, people know exactly who they are. Outside it, almost nobody does. That gap is the entry point into quiet sunglasses, and it starts lower than you'd think. Number 10 is L.G.R, a small Italian maker built around vintage-inspired acetate frames. Every pair is handmade in Italy by 3 artisanal families, and the company states a single frame takes 8 to 14 weeks to finish. The acetate starts as a full sheet, about 1 meter by 70 centimeters, then gets cut into smaller slabs before any shaping happens. Those slabs are tumbled for 48 to 76 hours with beech and birch wood chips to round off every edge, then hand-polished on top of that. Even the logo gets fire-stamped into the frame with heated brass characters, not printed or laser-etched on. Every L.G.R frame also uses a spring hinge, so the arm flexes instead of putting all the pressure on a screw. And the lenses are tempered mineral glass instead of plastic, because glass holds up against scratching in a way plastic lenses don't over years of wear. Tom Cruise and Daniel Craig have both been photographed wearing L.G.R. Number 9 is Oliver Peoples, and this one's a genuine ownership story. The brand launched independent out of Los Angeles, built a reputation, then got bought by Luxottica in 2007. Most men hear "bought by Luxottica" and assume the quality got diluted. The facts don't fully back that up. Oliver Peoples kept its own design language and its handmade production in Italy and Japan after the sale. Ownership changed. The design and the production stayed put. Number 8 is Randolph Engineering, a Massachusetts brand still making metal frames the way it made them for the U.S. Air Force back in the 1970s. Most sunglasses today use polycarbonate lenses, which are light and impact resistant, but scratch easier over time. Randolph still uses mineral glass in a lot of its aviators, the same lens material it supplied to U.S. Air Force pilots decades ago. Glass is heavier, and it can shatter under real impact, but it doesn't scratch the way plastic lenses can over years of wear. But they're still the entry point, not the ceiling. Most men will never touch this tier because it never occurs to them to ask what's actually inside the frame. Numbers 7 through 5, where manufacturing origin starts to matter. The first 3 brands were about who owns the name. This next tier is about who actually stands at the bench and builds the thing, and that's a different question entirely. Ownership tells you who profits. Manufacturing tells you what you're actually buying. Number 7 is Matsuda, made almost entirely in Sabae, Japan, a town that's been cutting eyewear since the early 1900s. The acetate gets cured for over 3 months before anyone even starts shaping it. And the brand's own explanation is that this slow cure is what gives the material its strength and its color depth, not just a quick heat and mold job that leaves the plastic under stress. Matsuda states that a single frame can take up to 250 separate steps and 71 hours across 13 different craftsmen before it's finished. Number 6 is Moscot, and this one's a family story instead of a workshop story. The brand's been running out of New York since 1915, and it's now on its 5th generation of the same family designing frames. The signature 7-barrel hinge and diamond rivet setup have stayed part of the design for decades. The same basic mechanical idea carried forward instead of redesigned from scratch each generation. Johnny Depp has been photographed wearing the Moscot Lemtosh multiple times over the years, the same frame showing up again and again. Number 5 is Cutler and Gross, a British house that's been making eyewear since the 1960s. It built its name on bold, sculptural acetate frames, hand-finished rather than mass-produced, off a single template season after season. It's the kind of name opticians and eyewear insiders recognize on sight, while most people walking past on the street wouldn't place it at all. That gap between industry reputation and public recognition is exactly the position most of the brands on this list occupy. None of these three brands are fighting for your attention, and that's not a failure of marketing. That's the business model working exactly the way it was designed to. The customer who finds Matsuda, Moscot, or Cutler and Gross isn't the customer being chased by an ad campaign. He's the one who went looking because somebody already quality tested it for a decade and never bothered to tell anyone. Numbers 4 through 2. The case against this whole list. Number 4 is Barton Perreira, and the founder's story connects straight back to number 9. The brand got started by veterans who spent years working inside Oliver Peoples before they ever put their own name on a frame. Barton Perreira builds its frames by hand in Japan, using plant-based acetates and titanium instead of the standard petroleum-based blend most of the industry runs on. The founders didn't invent a new philosophy. They kept applying what they'd already learned somewhere else, just on their own terms this time. Number 3 is DITA, and this one raises a fair question worth asking out loud. Is a brand's slow production a real ceiling, the actual limit of what hand finishing allows, or is it a choice dressed up to look like scarcity? DITA doesn't publish exact unit counts, so some of this is the brand's own framing rather than an independently verified number. What we do know is that DITA moved its production to Japan in 1999 and has kept the same craftsman relationships running for decades since. And the brand states plainly that a single design takes months to go from concept to finished frame. Whether that's necessity or branding is genuinely hard to separate from the outside. But relationships that last decades in an industry built on seasonal turnover are real, whatever the reason behind them. Now, let's argue against this entire video for a second, because the case for a famous name is real. Buy a mainstream brand, and you get things this list mostly can't offer. You can try it on at almost any mall in the country. You can walk into an optical shop and get a replacement lens or a new nose pad without shipping your glasses across an ocean and waiting a month. A warranty that doesn't depend on emailing a small workshop and hoping somebody checks the inbox. Predictable sizing, prescription support that's been dialed in for decades, and a retail network big enough that you're rarely more than a short drive from someone who can fix what broke. Plain familiarity counts too. And if a mainstream pair is your one purchase and you want zero friction owning it, that's a rational reason to buy known. But notice what those reasons actually are. They make a mainstream pair easier to buy and easier to own. None of that is evidence it was built better. Ease of ownership and quality of construction are two separate questions, and most men only ever bother asking the first one. Number 2 is Mykita, out of Berlin. The brand behind a patented screwless hinge, where the frame itself flexes to hold everything together instead of relying on a tiny screw that can back out over years of wear. Here's the detail worth sitting with. Maison Margiela, a name that needs no introduction in fashion, went to Mykita for a collaboration instead of the other way around. And number 1 takes this entire idea, choosing construction, scarcity, and insider recognition over mainstream logo recognition, further than almost anyone on this list. Number 1. Jacques Marie Mage. Here's the brand that earns the top spot, and it's not because of some heritage story stretching back a century. Jacques Marie Mage didn't exist before 2014. It was founded by a Frenchman named Jacques Mage, who grew up in Nice, moved to Los Angeles, and spent years working inside 2 other eyewear houses before he ever put his own name on a frame. First at LA Eyeworks, where he picked up the habit of treating a frame like a piece of design instead of a commodity. Then at DITA, the same brand sitting at number 3 on this list, where he learned the actual mechanics of Japanese production and built relationships with workshops in Fukui Prefecture that he still uses today. That's not a connection we're forcing to make a neater story. That's just where the man learned the trade before he went out on his own. Now the construction. Most luxury acetate frames run 4 to 5 millimeters thick, and cheap acetate can be as thin as 3. Jacques Marie Mage cuts its acetate at 6 to 8 millimeters, sourced from Mazzucchelli in Italy, then hand-polished in those same Fukui workshops. That extra thickness is why a JMM frame has real weight sitting in your hand, and why the edges hold a rounder, deeper finish instead of the thin, flat bevel you get off a faster line. The hinge is where the engineering really shows up. Instead of a screw, JMM uses a proprietary rivet built into the metal itself. Once it's set, it doesn't loosen the way a screw hinge can after years of opening and closing. The trade-off is real. You can't adjust it yourself with a tiny screwdriver at home. It needs heat and a trained optician, because you're not tightening a screw, you're reshaping metal. Production stays small on purpose. Each colorway runs 400 to 800 pieces, sold through a few dozen boutiques nationwide, no chain stores, no mall kiosks. And here's the detail that proves the whole premise of this video. Discontinued colorways don't just disappear, they resell above retail. A frame that listed for just over $1,000 has sold for close to $1,800 once its colorway ran out. That's not normal for sunglasses. That's the gap between the two buyers. The logo buyer sees a price tag. The knowledgeable buyer sees proof that certain colorways are worth more used than they were new. The label can't tell you whether a pair is built to last. The construction can tell you a lot more. So next time a pair gets priced to be noticed from across the room, skip the logo and check what's actually holding the lens in place. If you want more of these breakdowns, subscribe and drop in the comments which brand on this list is going in your rotation.